All right. So we are live. I just need to figure out if this is all connected.
All right.
Oh, okay, there it is.
Yeah.
All right, y'all ready?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. We're on 5, 4, 3, 2. Why can't I find? I'm just trying to figure out how to share this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I am broadcasting live this episode of Break It Down with Brian H. I am joined by two good brothers of mine. As you know, first and foremost, I'm Brian H. Waters, and I'm joined by first. I'm gonna introduce him. This is the first time he's came on the show. We've been having a lot of chit chat on the group chats, and that's the one, the only Byron Dixon, which you can see here following on Twitter at BKD_TV. Byron, what's good, bro?
What's going on, Brian? And I must say, our back and forth promos have been better than anything that we've seen in WWE the past couple months.
Whoa. We're not going to do. No, we are going to do that. So, but before we get into all this conversation, of course, he's been on here before. This is my good brother, the one, the only, the Black American Dream himself, Andre Melton. What's going on, Andre?
What's up, America? Glad to be back.
Well, folks, gentlemen, first of all, how y'all feeling? Are y'all good? We are in the midst of something unprecedented, something we've never seen before, and that is COVID-19. Are y'all good? Are y'all family members good?
Oh yeah, I'm good. I mean, look, I haven't been at home. I've been working every day, so I had no choice but to feel good. But the family is good. Nobody around me has had it yet, so I've been blessed.
Well, just make sure you wash your hands.
Oh, wash my hands, use hand sanitizer, wipes, shoot, even spraying some people down with Clorox and Lysol.
Byron, how you feeling today?
Oh, man, I'm feeling good. I hope everybody is good out there. I'm doing well. It's actually a perfect time for people like ourselves to watch all the wrestling content you can watch and break it down with none other than Brian H. Waters.
All right. Well, so gentlemen, I was going to start the show talking about an empty arena WrestleMania, but you guys are producers, so sometimes things change. We just got finished watching All Elite Wrestling Dynamite, and they just revealed that Matt Hardy has officially joined. Byron, I'm gonna start with you because you've been fanboying it for AEW over there, and we haven't had a chance to talk about this. How does that make you feel?
Well, as we all probably know, the writing was on the wall for Broken Matt Hardy to join All Elite Wrestling. I think he did a good job considering the IWC was putting everything out there of pretty much holding off until tonight. And of all nights, you hear Cody saying they're not going to stop storylines in an empty arena, bringing out a legend such as Matt Hardy. I think it's good for them. I know AEW is not perfect. I'll be the first to tell you, but I think since the start of the new year, they've started found their groove. I think the storyline, the storytelling, which has been great so far, and I think they've built up a lot of potential new stars even, and using some guys that we're familiar with to balance out the roster. So I think getting Matt Hardy is a plus. You can use him in a lot of different dream matches, a lot of different storylines with the Elite against the Inner Circle. You can put him up against maybe guys in the future like a Kenny Omega, a Darby Allin even, a Joey Janela, these guys that you have that can be helped built up. So he'll be used well. He can use his creativity, and I'm excited to see what they do with him.
Dre, how you feeling? Matt Hardy, AEW, it's official. No more rumor and innuendo. Matt Hardy is here.
I love it. I mean, I've been a fan of Matt Hardy even since the Virgin One days. This guy just continues to evolve himself, and it was a bit of a shocker tonight, though, because I'm kind of whatever happened to the 30-day clause, the no compete clause. But I mean, I'm happy that he was able to break out of his contract. He's back to the broken Matt Hardy, and this is we've been hearing the rumors, and now we finally get what we want as fans. So I'm excited.
You bring up the 30-day no compete clause. I think one thing we got to understand is that is a person by person, case by case. Generally, we always see it, but who knows? We don't know what was signed with WWE because if you think about it, before Matt Hardy signed with WWE, if you remember back in 2017, he was at Ring of Honor that same weekend, him and Jeff. And there was rumors that went out and said Matt and Jeff have Jeff Hardy had told CBS Sports that they had signed an extension with Ring of Honor, that it was WrestleMania weekend. All of a sudden, the New Day comes out. They said there's one more team to be added, and they got ready, made you think it was them. All of a sudden, you heard the Hardy Boys music, and boom, there it was. So maybe, just maybe, that's what they had. I don't know. I didn't see the contract. Maybe those provisions was in there. But I'm
Well,
looking.
Brian, you right. You right. It was this person my person because Brody Lee had a non-compete, and Matt Hardy this was a free agent as of March 1st. Hence why he made the videos.
Honestly, I think it like I mean, and bringing it up, I just always think about the Monday Night Wars and people such as Rick Rude and um, Lex Luger, showing up on Monday Nitro. Those are things that you never images you never really get out of your head. So I had to definitely bring up the compete clause.
I have to say this. If there was anybody who could have pulled this off in an empty arena, it was Matt Hardy.
Yes.
He finds ways to entertain you. I thought AEW did a phenomenal job tonight. I thought one of the things I was wishing, to be honest with you, was I wanted to see AEW. I wanted to see how they was going to do this with the no fans in the arena. I understand why WWE did things the way they do. They got 3 hours of content. The real Dwayne Allen and I, we went back and forth in the chat. He kept saying, well, they got 3 hours. I said, I understand. I didn't like it. Roger and D, shout out to your brothers from the Flex Zone. They were against it, said it was dangerous. I'll get more on the coronavirus for those who do not understand how this works. But the thing I didn't mind was that, the thing I love what AEW did was having each other in the crowd. You got a guy like Sean Spears, you got a guy like MJF, Colt Cabana out there, and now you just create a whole story with Colt Cabana and Kip Sabian because Colt Cabana basically said Penelope Ford could be good. She just gotta maybe ditch the boyfriend. Of course, he gonna take offense to that. Byron, what you think about that?
I definitely think, like you said, give credit to AEW for using innovative ways to use other people on the payroll, as I like to call it. We all know Vince McMahon is paying people to get his coffee, cut the lights on, pumping crowd noise. Why not have them in there pumping, doing something for the crowd? You have all these wrestlers on the roster, you sign guys that are in catering and not being used. Why not have them in the crowd? You have a beautiful performance center. Why not put it to use? Have these guys cheering on their fellow wrestlers, heckling them, just being part of the show. You got so many people. Why not using?
And Dre, before I go in to my point, what you think?
I agree with Byron. I think that AEW is doing a good job creatively and using their talent. But I think that I understand, like you said, what WWE is doing at the same time. I mean, that's a lot of content to fill up for a show, even if you do have the talent. There's only so much. I mean, with an empty arena, um, getting the talent there is a lot more dynamics and economics to the situation as opposed to just simply putting out there, hey, we have this amount of talent, let's use them. I think that they could use their talent more. I do agree with that portion of it, but I also understand that there's, because of the window and the hours constrained to it, why they would use some tape to fill that void.
Yeah. And just want to say thanks to the people that just joined us. Make sure you follow us at the Wrestling Realm. Also follow Dre and Byron at the Flex Zone 1. They Flex Zone come on each and every Monday night. One of the best sports shows where you're gonna get wrestling, but you'll also get the NFL. You ain't gonna get too much NFL talk out of me. I'm gonna just tell you like it is, but you'll get a lot of good NFL, MLB. You can even get some soccer talk when needed and some NBA talk. So you definitely want to tune into the Flex Zone. And I'm looking at this, and like I said, I like the way the stories was. One of the things I love the way this show started off was with Cody Rhodes calling out the elite. He went out there and he looked at each one of them and he said, you know, we have our issues. We need to get it together. Adam Page, you should be one of the best wrestlers on the roster. You had a match, but you lost. Brought up Kenny Omega, told him he's basically been saying what I've been saying, what a lot of people have been saying, and this is where what we've been saying, Byron, is that Kenny Omega a year ago was the hottest free agent signing. That's all you heard. Omega this, Omega that, Omega this. And when he comes to AEW, he is not presented that way. He is not booked that way. And I understand the notion of, well, he's an elite star. He doesn't want to use his status to essentially put over and he doesn't want to use his status in the company and make himself champion. But my argument was, you're coming to the United States full-time for the first time and coming to a major company for the first time. A lot of people don't know who you are, bro. This is why you should be winning matches. You should be, even if you're not the champion. I wouldn't have had him in a title match until it was almost time, but I would have still had him winning a lot of matches. Byron, your thoughts?
I think with a lot of the elite who are also holding positions in AEW, I think it's not easy to hold both positions. You have Kenny Omega, who in Charlie W. We know the women's division has been lackluster for the most part, up until maybe recently with getting Nyla Rose the belt. But I think that as Kenny Omega realizes, as you said, he is Kenny freaking Omega. He needs to be in the best storylines. He needs to be in the good matches. I think now the tag team with him and Adam Page kind of came together on the fly. I think it's been great. One of the best things on AEW. You got one of the most popular superstars in Kenny Omega, but one of the biggest rising stars maybe in wrestling, in Adam Page with his alcoholic gimmick. I think it's worked, and who's going to turn on who, the heel turn, the fantastic match they just had at Revolution. So I think Kenny Omega, you see the abilities that he has, but I think, like you said, it's just time for him to be Kenny freaking Omega and put on the best matches in the world and show why people love him so much coming out.
Dre?
You know, when I'm thinking about Kenny Omega coming over, I also want to compare him. Reminds me of AJ Styles when he first came to WWE, because AJ Styles, when he first came to WWE, it wasn't like AJ was on this huge streak. Remember, AJ debuted at the Royal Rumble, but he lost to Jericho at WrestleMania. So there's a build up there, and I think they have time to still build Kenny, and they just want to probably do a slow build as opposed to that you have a guy like Goldberg who you could just win, but then after he wins so much and then he loses steam, or an Oscar. So I think the slow build is the way to go, especially with new talent, and you want to introduce them to the United States, because we may know who Kenny Omega is, but like you said, Brian, there are a lot of fans who still don't know who he is.
And quite frankly, to be honest with you, and I'm going to take a point I heard from somebody else, is I wouldn't have let people know what their positions in the company was. Look, I understand they created this wrestling, just let Tony Khan be the boss, and keep him off television, but just let him be the boss. We don't need to know that Cody is an executive VP, or that Kenny Omega is executive VP, or the Young Bucks, because all they essentially did was give Triple H material to crack jokes. So we didn't need to know that. And the Young Bucks, I mean, they are somebody. It just drove me crazy because all you kept hearing, the Young Bucks this, the Young Bucks that. And this is an opportunity, like the show, hey, we're more than just what people deem spot monkeys. They can still do all that cool stuff. But now, yeah, you was over in New Japan, you was over in ROH, but now on a national television basis every week, you could have been over with that teenage audience and those young girls the same way the Hardy Boys was in the 90s. Now, I gotta move on. This is the original. This is gonna be an original A part of the show. WrestleMania, the granddaddy of them all, the biggest extravaganza. It's my favorite event in the whole world. Bigger to me, it's always bigger than the Super Bowl, bigger than the World Series, bigger than Game 7 of the NBA Finals. It will take place and over a 2-day course on a Saturday and Sunday at the Performance Center. I personally, I've been having mixed emotions. I appreciate the WWE with the mentality of the show must go on. I appreciate that. I said a couple weeks ago, and I'll stand by this statement. To me, what I would have done, my big matches, I saved them. I saved them for when we can get seats, butts back in the seats.
Mhm.
You know, I saved the Goldberg and the Roman Reigns match, the Drew McIntyre and the Brock Lesnar, the Undertaker and the AJ Styles. I would save those matches. But then the smaller matches, you know, dare say Becky, Becky and Shayna, whatever you're gonna do with the women's tag team, both tag team titles, those matches I would have in an empty arena in a one day. Dre, where are you on WrestleMania being in an empty performance center?
Ooh, that's so rough to me to put it. An event like WrestleMania, how do you put that in an empty arena? I mean, WrestleMania, like you said, that's an event. That's the Super Bowl of wrestling. We look forward to WrestleMania. Like that is the pinnacle for the wrestling year, and you can't, to me, put that in at an arena with no fans.
Mhm.
You hear the crowd. I mean, there are certain moments at WrestleMania that I could think about and I could pinpoint. The Undertaker at WrestleMania 13. I think about when Chris Benoit, when he won the world title in New
Come
York.
on, you gotta say it right. Chris Benoit.
It's just certain crowd moments that just happen, and you feed off the energy. When The Rock returned and he fought John Cena at WrestleMania in Miami, and I was there for that moment. You just can't get those type of feelings with no crowd being there. um I like your point where you said that you save the big matches for later on down the road, but it's hard to postpone WrestleMania, especially because in an era where you have a pay-per-view every month, you have Raw and SmackDown, and plus if you keep postponing it, it's not like wrestling gets a break. Wrestling isn't one of the sports like Major League Baseball or the NBA or the NFL. You don't get a break at all. Wrestling is 365 days a year, so the show must go on. And if they were to try to postpone it, what happens to SummerSlam?
Well, you
So
know, one of the things Jim Cornette said before I let you jump in there, Byron, one of the things Jim Cornette said was that he wouldn't do an empty arena. We know how Jim could be, but he wouldn't do an empty arena. He would have did a one quick announcement and said, "Look, we got to keep going." But one of the things Dwayne brought up in our group chat was the fact that network executives, you got to keep wrestling going on. You got to keep the show going on. You know, networks, the top dogs, they look, we run the shows to them, this is sports entertainment. You make a way unless you absolutely cannot. We also do not know what's going to happen with this coronavirus. It's unprecedented. I'm gonna tell you this, and this isn't breaking news. This isn't me breaking the fourth wall. I do not think we've seen the peak of it. We're in Baltimore, Maryland. Our governor has said that there's going to be more restrictions coming. So who knows? Maybe by the time WrestleMania get here, there won't be a WrestleMania because so many restrictions are coming. And Byron, real quick, D says he would postpone it. He said, you know, if you do the two shows, Goldberg and Reigns should take place on the special Eve show, special event. But you know, he would postpone it. Byron, your thoughts?
I think, Brian, I agree with your point of
Mhm.
having your big matches maybe saved. And I think even you could push them back to a time in April where it's not pushed into May, where you go into Money in the Bank and into the summer with SummerSlam. I think you have I think, in my opinion, in this WrestleMania, you had your big four matches that we're looking forward to see. In my opinion, I think Drew McIntyre hopefully getting his moment, 10+ years. Randy Orton and Edge. I think Undertaker, AJ Styles, The Fiend, Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. They've done a hell of a job bringing that to the forefront and making that a match we have to see. And if you want to say Roman and Goldberg as your big five, for whatever reason, those could be your big matches. But I think the Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, people aren't invested in that. The Women's Tag Team Championship match, the Rhea Ripley, Charlotte Flair matches could be on the eve. The Becky Shayna could be on the eve of WrestleMania. And why not give people like Otis, Mandy, let that story continue, allow them to have opportunity as well? It kind of sucks that it's going to be with no one there. But as you said, Brian, the show kind of has to go on. Dre, you said it too. Wrestling doesn't stop. And these executives want these things to happen because think about it. WWE is going to have their most views for WrestleMania probably in history just because of this. So they're going to make out pretty good.
Yeah, they are. It's so unfortunate. Like you said, you think about Drew McIntyre. You remember the pop he got when he eliminated Brock Lesnar from the Royal Rumble. You think about Edge, that pop he would have gotten when he entered the ring. You think about Roman Reigns slaying Goldberg. Even thinking about Roman's story, seeing him going out hugging his wife, hugging his daughter. Those are the moments that we won't get, and that's unfortunate. But again, I appreciate the WWE for saying, look, we're going to keep the show going as essentially as long as they can, because like I said, if further implications, if this thing gets worse, just last year, there were last week around this time, there were 1,000 cases of COVID-19 right here in the United States. A whole week later, gentlemen, there have been 7,000 plus cases of COVID-19. I'm a member of the National Association of Black Journalists. I have to pay respect and send my well wishes to the lady by the name of Allison, one of the founders of the National Association of Black Journalists, who has been infected with COVID-19, and said, let her know my prayers. My prayers are with her at this time, and I pray that she defeats this. This isn't a game, and that's the thing. And it's not one of those things. And a lot of people think, okay, you go outside, boom, you get it. It's not that. We have to limit our spaces. If we go to the stores, wash your hands, but it's like Dre or Byron, if I just go to your house, come back, we're good. That's the thing. And that's what people got to understand with the WWE, by them taking the corporate jets straight to the arena, by them taking the Edge driving straight to the arena. I'm pretty sure he made some stops, being responsible, washing his hands. It's just limiting your contact of who you are with people. That's the thing. So this is it's definitely gonna be interesting. What do you guys think? You guys are sports guys. Gronk is hosting. What do you guys think about this?
I'm not excited. Gronk is a good entertainer. Gronk is a good entertainer, but there's some. I feel like WrestleMania, you could be hit or miss with your host. The year I remember, I was at WrestleMania when The Rock was hosting in Atlanta, and The Rock really didn't do a lot of hosting. I remember when the New Day hosted it, I let them do it throughout the course of the show. Gronk, you'll probably see an appearance at the beginning, and then he may cut one more promo after that, but I don't really see Gronk hosting WrestleMania. I feel like if that's a job, you have to let somebody host throughout the entire show, and then also it's a matter of who you have hosting it. And I haven't been excited about somebody hosting WrestleMania since the New Day.
I'm actually going to go with glass half full, surprisingly. I think with Gronk, it can create a lot of innovative things to do, considering WrestleMania is in the situation it's in. You could have Gronk come out and host, then why not enter himself into the Andre John Memorial Battle Royal and win that? Since they're talking about he could sign a deal because SummerSlam's in Boston where he played this summer, so it could build him up for a good feud there. Maybe have Gronk drinking beers with Stone Cold since he's loved to party and entertain. Things that could be innovative, different things you might not be able to normally do, but a guy like Gronk, he probably can make it work. He has the size and appeal to say, oh, he could win a match and turn up with Stone Cold. So make the most of him. As I say, pimp him. You paying him anyway, so get the most out of him.
Oh man, that was hilarious. All right, so I gotta talk. Let's get to business. Rhea Ripley, Charlotte. How invested are you in this match? I think people know where I stand. This match is set up more for Charlotte to put Rhea over. Byron, where are you with this one?
I completely agree with you, Brian. I definitely think that this is to cement Rhea Ripley as the fastest rising superstar, not even just woman, superstar in the company. I think what they did with allowing her to go over Shayna with that excellent match on NXT last year, allowing her to have a great feud with Bianca Belair, and then allowing her to potentially beat the greatest women's wrestler of all time, depending on how you feel about Charlotte, whatever you want to call her. She's the greatest women's wrestler of all time. I think you see a lot of Charlotte and Rhea, and I think Rhea does go over Charlotte and kind of up and help build up the NXT brand as a whole and the NXT women's division and showing they can go with anybody.
Hey man, I completely agree with what Byron is saying. I think that you've seen a changing of the guard since Survivor Series. It's been that build up with NXT, and that's how it should be. I think at this point in Charlotte's career, she's eventually going to break her father's record of 16 plus championships. But I think that right now Charlotte is in a position where she needs to be putting people over. It kind of reminds me of The Undertaker, where you've reached that pinnacle. Now it's time to give back, put some talent over, because no matter what, you're still going to get your wins as well. But you can also put that young talent over. And I think that right now, with the upcoming talent, that because you need more women outside of the four horsewomen in WWE, you need some new fresh blood in there. We see who NXT has right now, and it begins right here at WrestleMania. This is the moment.
All right. Well, you said this is the moment. It's definitely interesting because this whole story changes by us having this match at the Performance Center. You remember when this build up started, it was strictly Charlotte saying, hey, you're good. You've been winning matches at these arenas, but what are you going to do when you walk out into what is now will be the home of Tom Brady? What will you do? You walk out there, and now that changes the whole game. And it's kind of it's I don't want to say putting Rhea at an advantage, but it's taking off some of them nerves that she may have had, kayfabe wise, you know. But now I want to talk Bayley Sasha Banks. I said a few weeks ago, well, one, I've been constantly saying I don't want to see these two wrestle at WrestleMania. I said last week that I would love for them, that I wouldn't mind if WWE said, Bayley, you're not going to defend your women's championship this year because you're going to challenge and essentially get back your tag titles with with Sasha Banks. Dre, I know you're a huge Sasha Banks fan. How would that scenario play out in your mind?
And honestly, I'd rather see that situation. I don't like the women's roster right now, what they're doing on SmackDown. I feel like you have talent there with people like Naomi and the Carmellas, and they're not using them properly. I thought that Naomi would have been getting over Bailey, but for some reason WWE pulled the trigger too early, and maybe it was so that way Sasha and Bailey could get those tag titles back at WrestleMania, get their win back. Um, shout out to the Fiend, but that I think that scenario plays out better for Bailey and Sasha as opposed to Bailey out against somebody on SmackDown, and there's not enough build up in that division.
Yeah, and I just think this is not enough buildup between Sasha and Bailey to turn them on each other. Quite frankly, I know there's like these little stuff where Sasha's looking at the belt, but like this is a feud that I would rather see like really explode. Byron, your thoughts?
I think with the whole Bailey thing, she's kind of in limbo because she's beating everybody, as you said, Dre, on the SmackDown women's roster. I think the wild card is kind of probably too late to do this now. Nia Jax, maybe have a Nia Jax come back to SmackDown, be a dominant force, be a legitimate threat to Bailey and actually be someone that her and Sasha can't beat, and it could maybe cause a little rift in their relationship and maybe build towards a SummerSlam match, even if it's not for the belt, being as though Boston is Sasha Banks' hometown, and maybe you could finally give Sasha Banks what she deserves. Eventually, is that women's championship because they should have gave it to her while she was on Raw against Becky, but that's a whole nother story for another day.
Well, but Byron, the thing is, you brought up Nia Jax, and the rumor is that she will be actually going to Raw. And she goes to Raw. Essentially, she will be. I think that doesn't guarantee us a Shayna Baszler victory over Becky Lynch, because I could see a scenario where Becky retains and then Nia Jax comes out and knocks her out, because we all know how Nia single-handedly took Bailey out of the match versus Ronda Rousey that was supposed to take place at Survivor Series.
Uh, See, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier about this should be the year of NXT. You've done the build-up with NXT, and you've seen how NXT helped get the Survivor Series pay-per-view over, and then you also seen what the pop, like you talked about, Brian, with that pop when Keith Lee entered the Royal Rumble, and then he was one-on-one with Brock Lesnar. Right now, I think that Shayna, you should build her up so that way you can have that build of the 4 horsewomen versus the 4 women from MMA, the and you bring and along you bring Ronda Rousey to come back in there. Put Nia Jax on SmackDown. SmackDown needs women, and Becky Lynch has run through everybody. I think that Shayna Baszler is a perfect opponent for her to have met her match. If you're not going to bring back Ronda Rousey, we're going to have that Ronda Rousey versus Becky Lynch one-on-one match, which we should have had last year as opposed to the triple threat.
Now, I like your idea of I like both of y'all's idea. Let me make that clear. Of putting Nia on SmackDown. You put her on SmackDown. Do you make her a babyface? Is she that monster babyface? Most of the time when somebody comes back, they're getting that babyface pop. Is this an opportunity for Nia Jax to become a babyface and not be so, I don't want to use it, but I'll say as soft as she was the last time she was a face?
You want to hop in, Byron? Because you know how I feel about Nia Jax.
I mean, I know you love Nia Jax. She looks good. She's on her diet. But I think if she does come to SmackDown, they need to make her. They just need to make her dominant. I don't think it has to be a heel or a face thing. She should be more of an anti-hero where the fan could cheer her, but she just doesn't give a damn. She just takes out everybody in her way, much like you saw what they try to do with Lars Sullivan when he came out. Just had to take out the whole women's division, make her unstoppable. What they call it, the unstoppable force. So make her unstoppable. Even if she comes back to Raw and Baszler does win, she could go against Baszler and make it a formidable match because they already buried Asuka. But we're not gonna get into that. So I mean, it's really it's really cool. Wherever she goes, she just needs to be dominant. I mean, I think hopefully her in-ring skills have developed a little bit during this time and her mic skills as well. But put on there, maybe SmackDown with her family, the Usos and Tamina, and maybe do something with that.
I'm
Maybe
gonna
some
say
riff with her and Naomi.
I'm gonna say something. You said Barry Oscar. I'm gonna say this. A lot of times, so this is where I feel about Barry. I always look at what is the talent doing? What type of money is the talent making? Right? Zack Ryder buried. 2012 Zack Ryder, woo woo woo. He got over on his own. He got over in 2011 with his show, the Internet Champion, and all that stuff, and then they buried him. Oscar Shinsuke, Shinsuke, yeah, maybe, because I believe that people were buying Shinsuke shirts. They were singing his theme music. They switched that up. Now he did have a solid summer of 2018 where he AJ Styles was wrestling for the championship. He was in the main event picture for SmackDown. Asuka, she won the title. She's won the tag title. I just don't think she drew the type of money that a lot of people thought she would, because I think she's more of an internet favorite than she is a fan favorite.
Well, to the Oscar point, um, they miss and you know how the wrestling business is hit or miss. And I think that when Oscar was over, they that was the beginning of the end was when she lost to Charlotte at WrestleMania. Was it perfect actually? Because none of us thought that Charlotte would win that match, and then Charlotte ends up winning the match. So I really didn't actually have an issue with the streak ending, but my issue is whenever somebody has a streak afterwards, what do you do? It's always the what's next with them.
Mhm.
And then Asuka comes out, she loses to Carmella. She loses to I forgot she lost another match within that time period, and it was just like loss after loss, where this woman was unstoppable for years. And then she even beat Nia Jax like straight up. So I mean, Sasha, just anybody who was in her way. Becky Lynch was anybody who was in her way, and now you don't believe that she can even win a tag team title match at this point. So that's why I think that we use the word Barry when it comes to Asuka, because we're not sure can Asuka win the big one. And then when Asuka finally did win the SmackDown Women's Championship, I felt like it was too late at that point. If she
It
had
was
lost,
anticlimactic. I'll give you that one.
if she had maybe lost to Charlotte at WrestleMania and then maybe came back and won the belt afterwards, maybe something like that could have helped. But there was no continuous build or storyline with Asuka. And same thing with Shinsuke Nakamura. When he lost to AJ Styles at WrestleMania, he kept losing to AJ Styles, and it was like, come on. It's like, what do you do with Shinsuke Nakamura after that? Like you said, Brian, this was a guy that was over. I mean, I remember people playing his theme music, whether or not they were just like in the car listening to it, working out to his theme music. I mean, his interest was cool. Like Shinsuke was over, and
But I think
again,
honestly, I think
that
that summer was more about building AJ Styles and establishing AJ Styles as an incredible WWE superstar. You know, when you look at him, you go back to AJ Styles, and you go back to guys like Bret the Hitman Hart, CM Punk, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Daniel Bryan was supposed to have it, but he got hurt. You look at these guys who had Shawn Michaels, these mega championship runs through the summer, even The Rock in 2000, Kofi Kingston. That was the thing. I thought that was more about building AJ Styles as opposed to, because I think he clips the year mark before ultimately dropping the title to Daniel Bryan. So I believe it was more about building him than burying Shinsuke. I just wish that maybe Shinsuke wouldn't have had as many matches and then eventually got back in there. Now I'm hoping we see something with him and Sami Zayn where Shinsuke will turn on him and get the title. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with what you're saying. I think it's just there were different ways to go about doing it the right way.
No, it
When
was
you have, like
definitely
I
lazy
said,
writing. I'll give you that.
you know, when you have, I mean, and to your point, when you said you have these guys who go over in the summer, even Kofi Kingston, when he had his title run, he took on Randy Orton what twice, and then I mean, he never really had an opponent where he faced him more than once outside of the feud with Randy Orton and other opponents. I remember that Shawn Michaels when he won in '96, and he
Mhm.
took on people such as Vader was the big one that he faced. He faced Mankind, the British Bulldog, like Owen Hart, Diesel. Like I remember that there were always different opponents that these people faced, and that's what got them over each and every time. AJ during that time they had him face men multiple times, and though it was AJ Styles, he could get over wrestling Gilbert. So it didn't matter who AJ Styles faces. AJ Styles was going to get over. You didn't have to have him face the same opponent multiple times on back to back to back pay per views.
That's true. Yeah. So, all right. Well, before we wrap up, because it's getting late. Appreciate you guys jumping on, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you are following the Flex Zone at the Flex Zone 1. Make sure, matter of fact, let me make sure that's on the screen for y'all in case y'all can't
That's when the
understand.
Flex Zone calls.
Yeah, the Flex Zone calls, you got to answer. And I'm just glad that 2 members of the Flex Zone answered when I called. And make sure you follow Byron at BKD_TV. And make sure you follow Dre at Andre1A. No, why is it 1A?
Because there's only one me, baby.
I knew he was gonna have a story. And of course, follow me at Brian H. Waters. So, gentlemen, last week on the show, I was talking about the Mount Rushmores of color commentators and play-by-play guys. And I know both of you guys are broadcasters, so y'all study the way people broadcast, like it's not just a game, it's not just you just listen to people. You actually understand the time, the preparation that goes into the craft. So apparently the internet doesn't understand the difference between color guys and play-by-play guys, because I put out my play-by-play list and people say, where's Jerry Lawler? Where's Bobby the Brain Heenan? I put out my color guys, they say, where's Jim Ross? And I'm like, all right. So I want to know your reaction. I'll go over the list real quick. For my play-by-play guys, my Mount Rushmore, Gordon Soley, he's the first big wrestling play-by-play guy that everybody talks about. Jim Ross said he studied this guy. Jim Ross is number 2, or maybe, I won't say 2 or 3 or whatever, but yeah, Jim Ross is on there. Gorilla Monsoon, The Sounds of My Childhood,
Yes.
A lot of epic moments, especially with Hogan. And then number 4, this is the one that I think I may have had one person agree with, and that's Michael Cole. Here's why I put Michael Cole on the list. When I think about all the eras, Michael Cole has literally been in wrestling for well over 20 years. You think back to the Attitude Era when Jim Ross got hurt and he had to jump in that role essentially quicker than they was ready for him to. He thrived in it. You just go back. Somebody asked me, and this is the best question. I wish I had the guy's Twitter handle right here. I don't. He asked me, if I had to show someone a Michael Cole match that he was commentating, which one would it be? They said they would have chosen, it was like a Ruthless Aggression match. I said Rock versus Mankind at the Royal Rumble. You think back, listen to Michael Cole. The Rock makes me sick, and that's the thing about these broadcasters. I think about some of the calls. Before I do the color guys, who's your guys play-by-play? What are your thoughts? I'll start with you, Byron.
Well, I really can't argue with Liz, Brian. I think people do kind of slob Michael Cole nowadays, but as you said, he has been a broadcaster through 2, 3 different eras. And I'm not going to lie, as much as it may be annoying, every time Roman Reigns comes out, it's the big dog, or Sasha Banks, it's boss time. I mean, you kind of get used to it. Or even now with John Cena, the greatest of all time. As annoying as it may be, Michael Cole is a company guy. He does a hell of a job. He takes a lot of slack. You think about when DX used to make fun of him, his WrestleMania matches, his joining the Vince McMahon Kiss My Ass Club, whatever you want to think. Michael Cole has done it all. So
and Jim Ross used to say, yo, Stone Cold. Vince used to say the excellence of execution, or the heartbreak. Yeah, here comes Shawn Michaels. They all got it. You know what I mean? They all got the thing. Yeah. I think that's the cool part, is that thing that they say. One person I had to omit. If I would have taken out Gordon Soley, but it was a Mount Rushmore as opposed to my top 4. And the way I look at a Mount Rushmore is, if you had to put in people to call matches and associate them with the biggest eras. So that's the reason why I had to put Gordon Soley in there. You think back to the days of old school NWA. But what I look at is, and see Roger jumping in the chat saying Michael Cole today sucks. You know what? He might not be everybody's cup of tea, but like I said, it's no denying. Ruthless Aggression era, Attitude era, PG era, Now era, whatever you want to call it today. I think when this is all said and done, they're gonna call it the Corona era. And but so that's the reason why I just had to have him on this list. Dre, what do you think?
Man, I love your list. Definitely, but there's one person on your list. I'm sorry, not one person on your list. There's one person who I think we overlook.
Mm-hmm.
Vince McMahon.
Vince was definitely a voice of
People
our childhood. Absolutely.
forget, people for Vince McMahon was an announcer and a damn good one. I mean, Vince McMahon alongside, in
Well,
our
he knew how he
childhood,
wanted it called.
it helped,
he
but
knew. He
Vince,
knew.
but Vince also had a lot of aspects to him. Like, I mean, people forget that it was Vince and JR. Vince and Jerry the King Lawler at one time doing commentary. They forget that, like, I remember I was listening back to the King of the Ring, and I
Mm-hmm.
was looking at that match with the Undertaker and Mankind, and then throughout the pay-per-view with Goldust and Arman Johnson, that it was like Vince McMahon, Mr. Perfect, and Jerry Lawler. So you can't really forget Vince McMahon. And then also I like Tony Schiavone too. And then if you
That
want
was
to
a
go
tough.
and then even in today's era, a guy that I like a lot, Mark Morello. I never can get my man's name
Mauro
right.
Ranallo. Mauro.
And,
It's
and
Mauro Ranallo, Dre.
and another person who I want to give a nod to, and I think that he did a good job when he was on SmackDown, holding that chair for a while, was Tom Phillips. So
Mm-hmm.
these are just some people who I like your list a lot, but I just want to make sure that these are some other people that we highlight along the way who could get some at least consideration or a good nod.
Yeah, and like I said, it's not easy. It's something that um it's not easy. And and I'll get into the color. I've had the pleasure of doing color commentary for WSU. Man, what was the name of that show? I forgot the name. It was with the cages though. And I'm looking right at it and I just can't call it Breaking Barriers, I think. But whatever the name of the show was, it's not easy. You sitting there, you're trying to not be repetitive, but you're trying to call what you see, but then you're also trying to tell the story of the match. For my color guys, I had Bobby the Brain Heenan,
Yes.
Jerry Lawler, who else was it? Bobby Heenan, Jerry Lawler, and I drew a blank for real. I should know it. Oh yeah, Jesse the Body Ventura, and I
Oh
and I
yes.
struggle with this one, and I put Larry Zbyszko, but then saw a lot of
Ooh.
people saying, "What about Taz or what about Paul Heyman?" And I thought about it. Those are good guys too, but to me, like Larry Zbyszko was, I, you know,
He's Larry
WCW.
Zbyszko.
Yeah, the living
What?
legend, and he annoyed the mess out of me, especially being a Hogan and a Sting fan. He talked against those guys, so to me, that's why he was on the list. I'll start with you, Byron. Your thoughts, and then what's your pull and play, your plug and plays?
I mean, you think about the attitude there with Jerry the King Lawler along with JR. It really is no better than that growing up. I know Jerry the King Lawler may be a little out of touch now, but he was great. I think Bobby the Brain Heenan is probably the first one I can remember being the ultimate heel color guy, which people still remember to this day. I think even having now, I like Corey Graves personally. I think he does a good job for the
Mm.
younger generation with a lot of things that he does. I mean, he's a company guy, but he makes a he makes some funny references, and he even does a good job when his botches of covering it up and just saying little puns. And when it was him and Byron Saxon together, that banter was just classic on Friday nights, Tuesday nights. And I think I can't disagree with the list, Byron. I think it's a good list, but definitely the attitude there, Jerry King Lawler and Jr. Taz was really good. Even some Paul Heyman, well, I can agree.
And I think Corey Graves, for me, honestly, will
Mhm.
replace Larry Sabisco when it's all said and done. When he get a couple more
Yeah.
years on this ball, because he's doing a phenomenal job. I mean, he had me legitimately not liking him at first, and as a heel commentator, that's what he's supposed to do. Dre, your thoughts?
I mean, your list, man. I think um, I'm just kind of thrown off with because I mean, you took it back, so that's why I'm like, whoa, like this is this is a wrestling historian, ladies and gentlemen.
Well,
But
this is a show of superior wrestling intellect. You see what it
but
say right there on the clock.
but I like when Byron bringing into today's age with Corey Graves. Um, Taz. You can't forget Taz and Michael Cole made SmackDown, just like Jr. and
Hmm.
um,
The King.
Jim Raw. I'm sorry, Jr. and Jeff. They made Monday Night Raw. Taz and Michael Cole. They made SmackDown into what it is. Um, Paul Heyman is a
Let-
guy I always get entertained every time that Paul Heyman, whether or not he's on commentary or if he was, um, or if he's the advocate for Brock Lesnar. I mean, Paul Heyman helped instrumentally with when Austin turned heel at WrestleMania. Paul Heyman he was a good commentator during that time to help buff that situation up. But I mean,
that he
today,
did.
like Byron brought up Corey Graves. I've been a Corey Graves fan from jump. I was like, from questioning like, who is this guy, to now like Corey is like, I mean, the job that he to me was solidified Corey Graves and what's going to put him on that Mount Rushmore is when SmackDown. I forgot who SmackDown was missing, and then Corey went right in there and just did the job. And he was doing Monday Night Raw, and he was doing at that time SmackDown Live to do back-to-back shows, and you liked him on both shows. And I
Mhm.
mean, to me, that solidified Corey Graves' career, and why you tune in when Corey Graves is on.
Now I gotta ask you guys this before we get out of here. Jerry Lawler, you said out of touch. Jim Ross, I think he's out of touch. Could you guys imagine if both of these guys was in AEW? Now, it could be, to me, it could be either good, really good, or it could be really bad. What guys? How you feel about that?
I'll go first. I think the way AEW has it is ideal because Jim Ross, he even said himself, he's a little bit probably out of touch with some of the guys in AEW. But I think having a guy like Excalibur who just has knowledge of all these individuals, very knowledgeable of wrestling himself, and then having a comedic relief of a Tony Schiavone to go along with JR, and then having Excalibur for the normal people who are hardcore wrestling fans who understand each move, all the stories behind each wrestler. I think their three-man team really works. And I think if you bought Jerry the King to AEW, it would be trash because Jerry the King Lawler called the Oscar and Kyrie Zane Kabuki Warrior number one and Kabuki Warrior number two, and called Oscar Oxana the other week. So this man probably don't even know his first wife from his second wife.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is true.
um, uh, real quick before I talk about them, another name I forgot was my boy James E. Cornette. Can't forget Cornette.
He was
I've always been
cool.
in it.
Somebody even brought up
Cool.
Kevin Kelly too.
Yes, I could see that too. Kevin Kelly, he was around for a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
but back to the
Saturday Night Shotgun Special.
back to both of them being out of touch though. Good gosh, like like Byron said, I mean, I'm surprised this guy ain't still saying puppies in the modern era. Talk about Jerry the King Lawler. At least JR, listen to his podcast and you listen to Talent and everything. JR, it's like JR is trying, while the King, I don't know what the world. I think the King just sometimes goes out there and really wings it at times. So it's best that both of them are separate, but there's too much. I think Tom Byron Saxton, they're good enough where, and you don't need the King. I think it might be time to take Old Yeller to the shed and have somebody out there who can fill that void. I mean, Samoa Joe, he did a real good job when he was filling in for a little bit. There's other
Renee
people
Young,
out there.
Renee Young, use her.
Well, I don't know about using Renee Young. She was alright, but she seemed a little
Even
lost
they
in the
heard
sauce too.
Corey Gracie said, "Well, it wasn't that you were so bad, but but it definitely would be interesting. Like I said, I'm always respectful of the craft. It's something I really enjoy. I gotta have a good commentary. I enjoy Booker T down
Yes.
dang, I'll miss his name, but his down in reality of wrestling, the commentators down there. It's just something I always enjoy. But gentlemen, we are to get out of here. I appreciate you guys coming on. Break it down with Brian H. Episode 122. We looking forward to SmackDown this week, folks. Taking place in an empty arena, in an empty performance center. I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if WWE follows AEW's suit, having different people from the show in the crowd just to liven up that audience. I would like to see it. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you catch the Flex Zone each and every Monday, right? Still on Mondays.
Mondays at 10 p.m.
Mondays at 10 p.m. And now they are on Apple Podcasts. So if you missed the show, make sure you subscribe, drop them a 5-star rating. Yeah, right. And make sure you subscribe to the Wrestling Realm. Give us a 5-star rating, folks. Go on Spotify. That's where you get your podcast. Hit the follow button. Click below. Hit the YouTube subscribe button, turn on the bell notification, and then, of course, check out my other podcast, Breaking Through the Glass Ceilings. Next week, I got a fellow Morgan State grad coming up, Benjamin McKnight. He's going to talk about being in the military, doing some broadcasting, and so much more. So I know you guys may be quarantined. Everybody stay safe as we all fight. Stay home. Do not go nowhere. Stay home. No more than 10 people at a time at events. Stay home. Use this time to reconnect, reset, re-energize yourself. And you know what? Do your home workouts. That's what I've been doing. I'm trying to get like my man Dre over here, always in the gym. Till the next time, folks, I'm Brian H. Waters. So long, everybody.